Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. Sure glad you joined us. We have an exciting show. We're on location today at Cross Country Genetics just north of Manhattan, Kansas, a business that Dr. Kirk Gray, Dr. Clay Briner, and Dr. Joel Anderson have running and gunning. It's embryo transfer today on DocTalk, and thanks for joining us.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson. I'm here with Dr. Joel Anderson, and we're at Cross Country Genetics today, and I'm excited about the show because we're going to talk about embryo transfer in beef cattle. And Dr. Joel, thanks for being with us.
Well, thanks for having us. Glad to be a part of this and talk about embryo transfer. As Cross Country Genetics is a company, we are housed and home place is here in Manhattan, Kansas, just north of Manhattan. We actually also have a clinic in Crescent, Oklahoma. We travel about 4 to 5 states doing embryo transfer work, so it's kind of a delight for us to get to talk to you guys today and kind of tell you what we do.
Well, I think it's one of those things that, we've watched the improvement in technology throughout the decades, and AI really took off, and now we're going to the next level, and embryo transfer is just one of those tools that's really catching fire and really becoming prominent in our quality herds.
Yeah, and it's really made a huge impact on the beef industry here in Kansas, and I grew up in Ohio, and it's doing the same thing there, and it's been really unique to go to bull sales. A lot of our customers are bull clients, and they're really trying to produce a quality set of bulls that commercial guys can come in and purchase. And embryo transfers allowed them to really increase the amount of consistency that's in those genetics. And it's been really unique and really cool. So
talk to me a little bit about embryo transfer and just kind of what are the general stages?
So the embryo transfer process pretty much starts with the donor cow. She's kind of the most important of the whole process and gets the ball really rolling. That requires somebody to determine which cow they want to use. And as a cow, she has the opportunity to have multiple calves throughout her lifetime. Much as we've figured out how to tap into the genetics on the AI side and semen production in bulls, cows also have a huge reserve of oocytes in their ovaries. The embryo transfer process allows us to harvest those oocytes as embryos, 7-day-old embryos, and then transfer those. So we can take one cow that, in her normal lifetime, normal production, 10 to 12 calves, maybe 15 calves if she lasts a long time. We can easily do that or double that in one single year.
Wow.
So we get the opportunity for these cows to really impact the genetic pool and the genetic options of a particular herd. So that cow will come to us. We go through a synchronization standpoint. That process at Cross Country Genetics takes about 30 to 31 days. She goes through a synchronization. We get her in the appropriate window of her follicular cycle. We introduce her to some follicle stimulating hormone, which is an FSH product that over about 8 injections, they go ahead and will stimulate those cows. We'll inseminate them, and then 7 days later we'll harvest the embryos. Those embryos then we can go ahead and transfer fresh into recipients, or we can freeze them, and they look like just normal AI straws at that point. They're just in quarter cc straws that we can cryopreserve, and as far as we know, they last forever.
So you'll go in and inseminate that cow after you flush, or after you get the eggs. And then you'll flush those embryos out and collect the embryos.
Yep, so it's a multiple ovulation process. So instead of a single ovulation that most cows have, she'll ovulate multiple oocytes, and then we'll fertilize multiple oocytes, and we'll retrieve those as embryos at 7 days after she's been in heat and after she's been inseminated. So she essentially could have a litter instead of a single calf.
Sounds like a sow, not a cow.
Yep.
All right, well, let's take a break. Folks, we're going to come back after commercial with Dr. Joel Anderson out here at Cross Country Genetics in Manhattan, Kansas. We'll see you after these messages.
This Meet the Future Veterinarian is brought to you by Zuprevo. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment.
Julia Herman took a winding path to become a veterinarian with inspiration as a child from National Geographic books, then with a bachelor's in zoology and a master's in epidemiology. After graduation from Colorado State's College of Veterinary Medicine, Julia plans on finding a position that combines livestock and wildlife medicine, epidemiology, research, and public health.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
DocTalk, brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook, or visit us online at sftmeats.com.
Hey folks, Dr. Dan from DocTalk here. Thanks for joining us today. Our guest is Dr. Joel Anderson here at Cross Country Genetics, where we've been talking about embryo transfer, and it's one of those things that's made a huge impact on our industry, and the people here at Cross Country Genetics, and Dr. Anderson does a wonderful job. And we left off with, we got them in the straw. Okay, so we're halfway home, right?
So yep. So we've collected the cow, and we've come into a process that looks similar to what is here behind us with the microscope and the lab, and that's actually where we are today, is sitting in our lab. So we've got those embryos, we've evaluated them. At that point, we make a decision whether to freeze those embryos or to transfer them fresh. And once we make that decision, a lot of embryos, about 60 to 70% of the embryos in the industry are frozen. So the cryopreservation process is hugely important. So we'll freeze those embryos. They're frozen in a 1/4 cc straw. Looks just like what you would get in a sexed semen straw if you'd purchase that from any bull stud. And inside that straw is just one embryo. So that's potential to make one calf. We'll freeze those. We'll put those straws, store them in liquid nitrogen. At that point, we've get a producer that calls us up, says we want to synchronize a set of recipients. We want to make some transfers. So those recipients will go through a normal synchronization like we would do for a timed AI or an AI event period. We'll record and check heats on those cows. We'll come out 7 days after they've been in heat. So we've removed those embryos from a 7-day uterus out of the donor, and we're going to put them back into a 7-day uterus in the recipient side. So that heat detection, that record keeping is vital for our success and vital for our client's success. So we show back up on the farm. We then take those embryos that we've frozen, cryopreserved. We're going to thaw them just in a manner that looks very similar to AI. We use a warm water bath. We don't thaw them at quite the same temperature. It's a little bit cooler water bath than semen, but we'll thaw those embryos. The direct transfer process, it uses ethylene glycol, which is our cryoprotectant, allows us to directly take those embryos and transfer them into a cow. So some people may have started with embryo transfer quite a few years ago, and we used to freeze them in glycerol. That required us setting up a scope when we went to the farm. That no longer happens.
So you had to wash them out of that glycerol.
So you had to dilute them out of the glycerol and allow those embryos to then be viable and productive. You couldn't just transfer them straight out of the glycerol. So we go ahead and we'll thaw those embryos. We palpate the cows to evaluate whether or not they have a corpus luteum or a CL that's present. We need that to be able to make a pregnancy. So as a veterinarian, I'm palpating the cow. I'm telling whether or not this cow is going to work, whether or not we're going to transfer. We'll thaw an embryo, we'll load a gun, looks very similar to an AI gun. We'll make that transfer. It's all non-surgical. Deposit the embryo, and she goes on, and that's the whole process.
Wow.
So
what about picking recipient cows? What are some of the things you tell people as far as what cows to pick? So
we get a wide variety. We get the sale barn cows, we get the heifers, we get old cows, we get the poor quality cows. It kind of varies and depends, but we like a young middle-aged cow that's kind of stopped in her growth curve. She's only worrying about lactating now. Those cows work really, really well for us. I've had a few people in my young career talk to me very much and say, our recipient animals make and break our embryo transfer program. A lot of people think about the donor,
right,
but it's truly the recipients that can really make or break your embryo transfer program and really make you successful.
Cool. When we come back, we're going to start talking about how you can incorporate embryo transfer into your herd, regardless of what type of herd or what type of program you have. You're watching DocTalk, and we're sure glad you joined us.
The BQA Tip of the Day, sponsored by Beringer Engelheim Vetmedica Inc.
Hello, this is Shane Terrell with Production Animal Consultation here with the BQA Tip of the Day. Today we'd like to talk about arrival procedures on newly arrived calves. This is a set of new cattle that just arrived this morning. It's really important that we have adequate feed, some roughage in the bunk, so when they arrive in that pen they have feed in the bunk, they have a clean and easily accessible water source, enough space to lie down if desired, a clean space to lie down, and adequate bunk space so all those animals can get to the bunk all at the same time. Also, we'd like to look for how many cattle after arrival for a couple hours are standing, lying down, or resting. We're resting where they're tucking their head underneath themselves to identify pens which need more acclimation and more work in those pens.
Broadband has become as important to us as highways. That is why DocTalk is teaming up with NTCA, the Rural Broadband Association, and rural broadband companies like Blue Valley Telecommunications in fighting for quality broadband access through the program Smart Rural Communities.
I don't think we have any idea what's coming in the future. I couldn't have imagined 5 years ago what we're doing today. So in 2 years, I would guess there's things we can't imagine that we're going to be doing.
To learn more, visit ntca.org/smart or bluevalley.net. Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
No matter where, no matter why, the Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State University is committed to providing quality patient care to animals and exceptional customer service to their owners. From routine checkups to emergency and specialty care, our world-renowned specialists and experienced professionals are here to discover, to teach, and to heal.
Let us know.
How can I help?
How can we help?
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
DocTalk, brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here with Dr. Joel Anderson. We're at Cross Country Genetics outside of Manhattan, Kansas. We're talking about embryo transfer, and we've gone through the process of embryo transfer. And now, there are different types of herds that, with different ways they could participate in embryo transfer. And so let's start going through some of the scenarios that you work with.
Yeah, so we get a variety of clients that we work with and a variety of ways that we can incorporate embryo transfer into their program. One of the kind of the stepping stones, or one of the ways that a lot of people get introduced to embryo transfer is they decide they go to a sale and they see a package of embryos and they call them. Then they call us and say, what do we do with them next? So, that's kind of one way that a lot of people get in, is they purchase embryos through a sale and then they want to put those into recipients and get those calves that they've purchased those genetics. That's kind of an easy way. All you need to do is have some recipients that you can set up. like I said before, we just direct transfer those embryos, transfer them right in, and looks similar to just AI.
Yep.
The other option is to go through the whole process of incorporating a donor cow. Most of our seed stock type operations, your purebred operations, that's who we work with on that side. They have a select set of animals, kind of their upper echelon or their top tier of cows that they want to really propagate those genetics, and then they use the rest of their cow herd as recipients to make those genetics valuable and flourish for them. So that's another option. That's a kind of what we consider a total or a complete embryo transfer program, is a set of donors, a set of recipients, and we kind of do the whole thing on their place. The other option that you could get involved in embryo transfer is we work with quite a few what we call cooperator herds. These are just commercial cow herds, commercial cows, just the same as we're going to sell a weaned calf product at the end of the year, or maybe we're going to retain ownership. They're out there just selling a commodity product essentially at that point. What we do with them is they say, we'd really like to gain a premium on our calves, and we're always looking, what can we do to add value to our calves? So we'll come in, we'll pair them with a seed stock producer, and we've always got seed stock producers that are looking for cows to put embryos into.
Right.
They come to us and say, we'd really like to make some transfers. We'd like to get some extra value out of these calves. So we'll go in, we'll work with that cooperator herd. We'll help them with their synchronization. We'll help them with their cow management, organize and orchestrate that whole process between the seed stock producer and them as well. We kind of help both parties as that to make it as a successful day as possible for all of us involved. And we'll just show up and we'll transfer embryos. So they synchronize cows, they heat check for us, and we show up and we 7 days later put them in.
So how do a lot of the financial work with like a cooperator herd?
So that varies, and it's unique with each opportunity. I've been exposed to some places where guys really want bulls. So they'll put embryos in. They'll say, you guys can keep a select set of the heifers and retain those as replacements in your cow herd. That gives those commercial producers an opportunity to really access some valuable genetics that they can keep back as heifers. And the bull customer, the bull client that we have that really wants to add bulls to their bull sale gets what they want as well. They get more transfers made, more calves, can add that to their bull sale. The other option is some of the pricing schedule is just go on steer price at the end of the year and then add a premium. So It's a weaned calf. The seed stock producer, the supplier of the embryos, just buys all of the calves back, and then they do with them what they see fit. So it varies from place to place. It also varies on how that pricing structure is done, and it depends on the producer.
Sounds good. Well, folks, we're going to take a break. It's been a wonderful show. Dr. Joel Anderson, Cross Country Genetics. We're going to take a break, and we come back. We'll wrap up out here north of Manhattan, Kansas. Thanks for watching.
Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. Frank Lyons from Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center here in Manhattan, Kansas. Daryl was one of our patients that we did about 7 months ago.
I dug trees by hand for years and years and years. In the process, I wore out my rotator cuff. But when I learned about this process, I thought if there's a way to get rid of this pain, then I want to do it. So we did it, and it worked. And I'm not going to go out and dig trees with a shovel anymore, but I can do the things that I want to do now.
Well, it's been very gratifying to help people with their painful joints and other entities, and it's been especially gratifying to be able to help people who I know and have worked with and known for many years.
Here's another gardening tip with Annette Jackson from Jackson's Greenhouse.
Fall is a great time to plant perennials, trees, shrubs, and bulbs. Root development occurs with the moist and cool soil conditions, which means better growth next year with less watering and maintenance. The use of mulch on all plantings helps protect from freezing, thawing, and drying out. Let Jackson's help with your next planting.
Jackson's top quality fall bulbs for spring blooming have arrived. Always plant the best bulbs for bigger, better blooms.
Jackson's Greenhouse has what you need today.
Healthy cows start with the new hired hand automatic livestock sprayer. Rancher invented to provide an efficient alternative to pour-on and injectable parasite management systems. The portable design allows cattle to treat themselves head to hoof. Strategic device placement with pass-through activation technology takes the stress out of parasite treatment for cattle and the rancher. Get the new hired hand for yourself or become a distributor. Visit cowsprayer.com. The new hired hand makes healthy cows easy.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Tallgrass Commodities offers producers bulk commodities at a reasonable price with reliable service throughout the whole Midwest. To find out more about Tallgrass Commodities, visit tallgrass.us or call 785-494-8484.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or for more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here with Dr. Joel Anderson. We're out at Cross Country Genetics. We're sure glad you joined us today. We've had a great show talking about embryo transfer, and you know, as we were talking during the break, there's some general statistics that you go through with your clients as you set these types of procedures up, and let's just kind of go through some of the expectations.
Yeah, so one of the biggest questions we get a lot of times when people want to venture into embryo transfer is, you know, what do I expect? You know, how many embryos am I going to get out of a donor cow? How many pregnancies am I going to generate? Those are very common questions that we receive. The one thing that I always temper all of these discussions with is we're working with biological systems.
Right.
You know, it's not like the auto mechanic shop. There's really no black and white in what we deal with, but we do have a set of averages that kind of guide our clients and guide our decision making and guide whether or not we're being productive at what we're doing. So as an average across essentially the entire United States and across the world, you're going to expect about 6 to 7 to 8 viable embryos per collection. And that's speaking beef cattle. Dairy cattle is going to be a little bit less, but we tell clients to expect 7 to 8 viable embryos per collection. Clearly an average. Some cows, single leg producers, some of them you get 20 to 30 in a collection. So it just varies. But we kind of expect about 7. We look at the recipient side and people want to say, well, how many pregnancies am I going to generate? And we tell clients on frozen embryos, we would expect those to perform 50 to 60%. So okay. 50 to 60% of the transfers that you make should result in babies. On the fresh side, and that's with frozen embryo transfer, if we go ahead and transfer them fresh and they don't go through the cryopreservation process, we'd expect an increase in about 10%. So okay. 60 to 70% of the transfers that we make should result in live calves. The other kind of standard and metric that we kind of talk about a lot, and especially with our commercial producers that are looking at working on the, as a cooperator herd, is we really strive to be able to come in and we think in one transfer event, we'd like for them to be able to have 50% of the calves born to be ET out of one transfer event. That's kind of our metric. It's a challenge to reach that, but that looks at synchronizing cows, realizing we're going to get 80 to, hopefully better than 80%, 80 to 90% of them into heat. And then we hope to transfer to about 90% of them. And then if we look at that 50 to 60%, we can really have a chance in one transfer event, one round of transfers to make 50% of the cows they set up have an ET calf.
So then you're going to come in early and ultrasound and confirm pregnancy so that if they don't take, yep, you can get those cows bred.
Yeah, and we actually have an opportunity where a lot of clients we go to every 3 weeks. So we can do a resynchronization process. We'll cedar those cows that we transfer to. We'll pull cedars. We'll watch return heats off of those cows and we can transfer to them again. So okay. Some of our clients will transfer 3 rounds a year and make them a lot of embryo transfer calves.
I'll be. Well, thanks for being on the show and thanks for the service that you're providing out here to folks in Kansas and Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. the 4 or 5 state region that y'all travel.
Yep.
And thanks for all you do for K-State, letting us have our students bop around too.
Not a problem, not a problem. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for watching DocTalk. If you want to know more about what I do at Kansas State University, you can find us on the web at www.vet.ksu.edu. Remember, always work with your local veterinarian. Thanks for watching DocTalk today. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson, and I'll see you down the road.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agamandkansas.com.